We've all heard the phrase, "The truth shall set you free." But will it always? For is truth always the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Is there thus the sad capacity to convey a truth with a word that describes something, but the same word stating a mistruth as to how this situation came to be in the first place? Some would say, is it conveying how something got to a certain situation or state by free will or determinism? Was it chosen or not? And so a word can state truth about some situation, but a mistruth if the incorrect word as to how the situation or trait, particularly with people, came to be. Secondly, I think it problematic for truth to set you free, even if the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, if stated to someone who a minute later, a day later, a week later, is infected and overwhelmed to that extent by contrary mistruths. I stay away from the word lie or propaganda or even misinformation sometimes, but a mistruth, an inaccuracy, and a big one at that, particularly about some key premise in life. I'm reminded of several things. If one were to go to prison, one might be routinely deloused with DDT in the past or whatever chemicals now, parathion or whatever the word is. But what happens then if the bedding one sleeps in that night or in the future is infected, and one thus finds the delousing procedure to be of no use? If the delousing procedure is considered a truth and the bedding one sleeps in later a mistruth, then what good is the application of the truth? It's undone. I know too, I once read one psychoanalyst urged their clients not to read any other material in general or to have any other psychological exposure to concepts other than from that one analyst. But it seems to me that could be quite problematic if the analyst does not have the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, more than average. Especially if the analyst has taken up Freud's opinion that one should be totally opaque. In other words, revealing nothing about themselves as the analyst, including their flaws or viewpoints, or how they live in general, including thus their defense mechanisms they use that render to the client that the provider is less than perfect and should be believed hook, line, and sinker. Now, if we're not talking, say, lice, what about the issue of bed bugs? A similar little tiny creature, but if one got, quote, bed bugs, it is an urge to us all that one has their clothing and their furniture dry cleaned or sprayed somehow to rid reinfection possibilities if one spots this problem and uses appropriate measures chemically to take bed bugs off of one's own body, shall we say. But to not complete the whole process is to likely get reinfected and over again. Not to mention then the concept in general, going back to the lice situation, of how this spreads like wildfire in childlike settings, say in school, where there's close contact, especially if done with some degree of physicality, like touching or rubbing of heads together from sporting activities, or from trading of helmets or other headgear. The whole concept, thus, of infection from what I would generalize to be a mistruth in the environment, or a whole host of them, often strongly promoted or existing. When one is trying to grow and one is told, ironically, that the truth shall set you free. Well, how can truth set you free if it gets countermanded by an overwhelming extent of mistruths? Just like trying to rid oneself of bedbugs or lice. If one gets reinfected without stripping the opportunity of the outside influences in one's environment to be reinfected from. That's why I believe it problematic to believe totally the phrase, the truth shall set you free, if one is in an environment where mistruths are there that can infect us and twist and negate or cause us to pause too much the truth we heard. Especially if that's not the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to begin with. And of course, we all know from watching news programming, especially debates, that each side says someone else is lying. I would say that's probably true because while I don't want to use the word lie in life, there are mistruths, surely from anyone's perspective, typically. No one has a complete lock on all truth in one's life. And so the accusation being said that you're saying a truth, but there's mistruth in there also. And it goes round and round and round. Problematic then to think one can be set free by the truth. For how often is it we receive nothing but the total truth or have it ourselves? And if we did, once again, for the umpteenth time, how would this stay a truth in our minds if countermanded by mistruths? Or in a state of being that one is quite the more certain enough to act, instead of having a lot of doubts because of the mistruths out there. Just like one might struggle to live life and work if one has a bacterial infection. The bacterial infection, in a way, a mistruth out there countermanding the truths within us that were once basically health. We're being countermanded our health by the mistruths of the bacteria infection we're fighting, and hopefully it not taking over too strongly. Thoughts here.